Hello, Polytopians. Thanks for tuning into the Polytopian Times. I'm your host, Sam, and today we've got ourselves just an excellent replay here. It's a nice free-for-all with myself, Tan11Pan here as Barter, and Espark as our other Yidok player. Now, this was quite a fun FFA. Let's see how it turns out. I'm glad you're all here to enjoy. Without any further ado, let's hop into it, eh? All right. So, we have Tan here as our Barter player. He's going with his usual eco start, and Espark and I are using our roads off to our second village early on. Mind you, you can see here in our starts, I am the most surrounded by water. Tan is okay, and Espark here is also got an alright amount of water, but a nice ratio of land here too to work with. She's off with her second warrior to her, hopefully, third village. I am also moving on my way. Got a ruin there as well, and just working on building up my economy. We can see Espark has reached Cuttlersan there and is about to hit her third city as well. Tan is moving up the north towards me, and I am, of course, getting ready to lock down my third city as well. Getting that road up, and just a couple of workshops, building up my economy as best as I can at this point. I'm up at 7 stars per turn and reinvesting that into another level up of the resources there. All around, those ruins really help me out quite a bit. Espark's definitely trying to push out herself, and Tan is, well, just focusing on leveling up his main capital whilst he locks down his second village and is, of course, lined up for that third village already. And there's Espark getting her third village. And finally getting some roads down and getting her first 2 villages upgraded. At 6 stars per turn here for Tan, and he is busily upgrading his second village and nailing down his third village, upgrading that and getting himself an explorer so he can see what is going on this map. And here he's running to me, getting some extra stars out of that, and some valuable vision of my empire. Meanwhile, I'm going to lock down my third village, level up, and well, I get an explorer myself because map vision is quite valuable in this game. And here you can see I'm just getting an equally valuable amount of information on what Tan has going on with his barter play. And I'm, of course, going to continue to just rinse and repeat and invest in my economy, getting my first port down. I'm hemmed in with a lot of water, so I'm rushing to the sea before any other players here. Espark's still trying to expand, see if she can claim any more villages, leveling up as much as she can while she's here. Unfortunately, her second village didn't have a fruit, so she wasn't able to leverage that for a double level up, but she has got Uxta up. And we can see Tan here is busily churning up level ups for each of his villages. And that's 1 for Bulin and 1 for Gugubu, which puts him up at 12 stars per turn, but he is pushing for Orkflow with a level up, and I believe we're going to see border growth? Nope, population growth. And here I am at 12 stars myself, pushing further into the sea, just trying to expand as best as I can. I was stuck in a bit of a corner. We see Espark here is also trying to expand. She's found a new village on the side, closing in on Tan, and Tan's got himself a nice swordsman out of those ruins that he's pushing down towards Espark's position. Meanwhile, I'm rushing across the water towards the first free set of villages, and nobody else has really hit the water at the same speed as I have at this point. There's Tan getting his first port down. Now, of course, it's a bit late as I'm already starting to lock down those villages and rushing ever more units out and into the water. Meanwhile, Espark's trying to push north and get as many levels up as she can. She's gotten free spirit, so she's doing a chop rush to get some extra eco so she can get some more economy going and try and be a little more aggressive here. I think an explorer might have done her better, but that workshop certainly does help. Unfortunately, that sees her lose Khmer to Tan pretty quickly, and that was a smart play there on his end. Just instead of taking the village from her, and that pressure is going to pay off in the long run. Almost certainly. Now here I am claiming the second round of villages. I've got an explorer so I can see ever more of the map. I do love my map vision, and here I've made contact with the Espark, and I can see that she and Tan are having, well, at least potentially some contention. And I'm also getting some more levels up here, just trying to get as many down as I can. And those ports are nice when you don't have a connection to the city yet. You see, they count as 3 stars. So if you have a level 2 village that's ready to level up and give you those 5 stars back, you lay down a port, it only costs you 5 stars, and you only need the 1 as long as you don't have a connection to the capital yet, because it gives you 1 pop for the connection to the capital, and then 2 for the port itself, which is rather nice. So you can see I use that there on Shtaturk and then on Zark, using the excess 5 stars to fund the next port over. Yeah, it's a nice little snowball tactic you can use while you're, trying to be aggressive in the game. And unfortunately, Espark doesn't really have anything she can do about the conquering of Khmer. Instead, she's focusing on building up the economy she has in the cities she's got locked down, lining up for that first giant. And here we see it out. I believe she's going to send it off to Khmer to try and retake her lost village. Meanwhile, Tan's pushing into the sea and getting some shots off at Bursam. Unfortunately, he stumbled right in front of her city, so he's going to take some damage there. Meanwhile, I am sneaking around the side of the map, just trying to claim as many villages as possible, and Espark is now also deciding that this is decidedly a naval map, what with her recent contact with Tan at sea. So things are certainly going to spice up in the water. Meanwhile, I'm continuing to just sneak around the side, and Tan is just rapidly building up his economy. Just going for mass growth, which makes sense. In his shoes, that's exactly what I would be doing, and what I have been doing. Meanwhile, I'm continuing to expand around, landing a warrior on Espark's lands just to, pressure her a little bit and getting my first customs house out. Rushing out the customs houses was also part of my strategy. A gambit to build up as much economy as possible, given my original spawn wasn't quite as powerful as, say, Tan's was. So I realized I would need some strong economic capabilities. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not my customs house gambit will pay off, of course. And Tan is over here rushing out as many giants as possible, also building up his naval presence, while we see Espark has also hit the seas. Meanwhile, I am just trying to expand on my half of the map, eating up all the free lands that I can, exploring some more of Espark's territory. Espark's busily trying to counter-explore me. She sees that free village over there, and a free village across the water. She's also killing off my warrior and embarking some more units at sea in a desperate attempt to build up a navy that's capable of pushing back. Now, at the moment, I believe she and Tan are about to call a temporary truce against me. They both made contact with me. They're both aware that I'm in first place and a big threat right now. So they're both going to throw everything they have at stopping my advance across the rest of the map. And that explorer was very good for me. I'm going to claim up a couple more spots here, just continue to expand my reach across the map, build up my economy a little bit further, get a couple more customs houses down and build them up a bit, and just try and increase my naval production capabilities here. I'm also just moving around to expand a little bit. Espark, meanwhile, is going for that free village in the north. She's also building up her economy here and retaking Khmer from Tan. That may have been part of the agreement there. She's also trying to kill me before I get a chance to take that village. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. However, at 1 health, still not much of a threat. My warrior anymore. So it certainly made sense to do a little extra damage while I could. Now, Tan, meanwhile, is again just trying to build up some more giants, just getting in to try and prevent me from getting an effective naval force at sea that's going to stay alive for a long while. Meanwhile, I have, of course, got myself defenders, so I'm about to pose a much bigger threat at sea than I was previously. And cheeky little play with my road sees me take that village away from Espark, thus locking down half the map to myself. And I'm just going to use that map control to build up my economy. At 34 stars per turn, unfortunately, I have 2 giants from Tan coming up towards Berul, so I am laying down some defenders to block that. I'm also just trying to build up as much economy as I can in the background. Again, those customs houses are super helpful. You see Espark here is also pushing back, but she's unfortunately only got 20 stars per turn right now. Although, technically, her alliance with Tan should be giving her a little more competitive power than she had previously, and she's definitely using that breathing room to build up her own economy a little further. Also landing a giant next to Ulkirk to prepare for a siege of my city next turn in these more vulnerable stretched out places. Meanwhile, Tan is of course rushing as many units to sea as possible and still continuing to farm out giants en masse. And I do mean en masse. Moving up those two giants next to Barul, ready to siege the city. I'm doing a little bit of damage while I can right now because the last thing I want to do is have two full health giants outside a city that I can only defend with a defender. Unfortunately, there's not really an effective way I'm going to be able to defend that still. Two giants is more than enough to break through what I have here. So I am rushing in some ships, doing some extra damage to the giants there, and, continuing to level up on the side, up at 40 stars per turn right now, and that's only going to build up further. Meanwhile, I'm doing a little bit of population growth, preparing for next turn. I know I'm going to lose that city, but I can level out that giant and prepare a wall. That'll give me, some breathing room. At least one potential catastrophe averted, because Brule is right next to my capital, Arki, and I cannot lose that city. I will lose the game if that happens. Here we have Espark, again laying down more forces at sea and sieging in with her giant in Ulkirk, which is quite a problem for me. Meanwhile, she's pushing out some more naval forces towards Tan's area. However, their tentative alliance is still holding at the moment. And Tan is, again, just trying to deny me any naval capabilities that he can. Unfortunately, there's only so much Tan can do here. However, he is going to get into that city as well, and it's looking dire for me on this turn. I have two cities under siege in two different extremes of the map. However, I am lined up to level out right there in Brule. I was prepared, after all, for that siege. Get a little extra damage in while I'm at it. And I'm going to rinse and repeat the same process here at Ulkirk. And here we go, another level up. And level out, and just going to take another free shot here at that giant, which really weakens Espark's advance there in the north. It's pretty much stalled it. Meanwhile, I am pulling back and just trying to get as many units at sea as possible, because it's become a mosh pit there. The ships and boats are just going at it nonstop. Meanwhile, Espark is doing her desperate best to push in and besiege Ulkirk. Unfortunately, she's just not able to really get in there and make the difference she was hoping to. Meanwhile, there's been a break in the peace treaty. Espark did besiege Bulin, and now Tan and Espark are also at conflict with each other, which is great for me. Unfortunately, Tan's giant's unable to kill my giant, and Tan's had to divert a lot of his resources to killing Espark's giant that's in his borders. I, meanwhile, am just embarking some more units, moving my giant off to the sea and making him a ship so he can at least retaliate, moving up more units behind Orkirk, where I know none of my enemies can see, thus they don't take retaliatory fire when they shoot. And in general, just whipping up all the boats I've managed to float into the water and not take much damage into ships so that they can go and knock out some enemy fleets. And in this case, I've basically pushed Tan out of the water in one turn, taking what was a dominant naval position and pushing him into the back seat. Meanwhile, Espark is turning her forces over to try and push back against both me and Tan at once, getting her giant in position for Bulin again. Definitely makes sense to try and push for Bulin. It is a coastal city, so it'll be a little easier to support that assault. But ultimately, I think even she realizes that this is a desperate gambit. And Tan is, of course, wiping out her giant, doing his best to try and just wipe out my forces, killing that giant of his own. But mind you, I've got plenty of time now to just get some free shots in on his giant before he gets a chance to get into the city, thus preventing him from being able to siege me properly. And I have more than enough naval capability to, whip up basically a fresh navy each turn to counter all the different assaults that are going on. Now pushing back against Espark's navy and leveraging my superior economy to build up my customs house network at a rapid rate, up to 58 stars per turn right now. And there's my third giant out, and in the water there. And we see Espark here at 28 stars per turn, fighting back as hard as she can with her own giant battleship, just trying to peg me back with some strength while also trying to get in and take Bulin. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to get in range in time, and Well, it wasn't the best spawn on her end. That spawn luck definitely did not help, and she was kind of hammered on both sides. It just wasn't the greatest position. Now we can see Tan's pushing back into Khmer, and, well, she does have a superior naval position to Tan, but unfortunately Espark is tied into the conflict with me. And, of course, I am just cementing my position. Finally, with Aquatism, I have a unique advantage at the fight at sea, being able to take damage that now Espark and Tan won't be able to. And, of course, I'm rushing more units out just to float up my navy a little bit further, up at 66 stars per turn right now. Meanwhile, Espark's down to 24 stars per turn, what with Khmer under siege. She is trying to retaliate as best as she can, but there's nothing she can do. She can't get in range, she can't take out Tan's giant battleship, she can't get into Bulin, and now her fleet is largely crippled. And it is at this point that Espark resigns, so from here on out, we'll be seeing what a bot does. And here we see Tan, of course, pushing hard. At this point, he's got a steam line going. He's definitely taking Khmer back. He can start to get back to sea again and push back. He doesn't have customs houses yet, which is something that Espark and I both did get, although I've definitely got a lot more of them. But I certainly don't have the number of giants that Tan has. However, I am just pushing. Cheeky little push on Bulin, but if he can't get a unit in range to actually hit it, it won't matter that it's only a 3 health defender. If I can take the city, it'll be much easier for me to keep it alive later. And here I'm putting up my shield wall outside Barul to keep Tan's giants at bay too. And Espark, well, at least the bot of Espark is doing its best to do some damage, although this may be the player still. I'm a bit fuzzy on quite when Espark's out. And of course Tan gets that warrior right in range on Bulin and takes it back. Strikes back at my naval forces some more. Got 2 more giants up by the shield wall, but neither one's at full health, and he's just sitting back, likely going to heal both before he tries to attack Barul again. Using that giant battleship to get some damage done on my forces, but of course taking quite a bit of damage because I have Aquatism. I am continuing to build up my own forces, getting some battleships up at sea now, trying to take out Espark's giant battleship, because it's quite a threat to me, to be honest. And I'm not a fan of that, and here we have it cleared out. And now I'm moving in some units of my own on Tan's Giants, also clearing out Tan's Giant battleship and weakening Bursam. I do recognize how weak Bursam is right now and how lucrative taking that city would be for me. And Espark is unfortunately not doing quite so good. I believe at this point we are definitely in the bot's shoes right now. And Tan here probably recognizes that weakness too and is trying to push me back. If he can get Bursam, that would be great. At the very least, he can't have me have this strong a fleet. And he would like to at least get a giant up close to my city. He's breaking through the wall, getting a catapult up in the hopes of being able to break through whatever I might put up. Thinking that it'd be very difficult for me to try to level Barul up again to level out a giant. I see that coming, and I'm not going to let that happen, so I am just going to use my battleship to do some very hefty damage, and I'm again sieging into Bulin, this time with a 14 health defender. It's going to be a little bit harder to push back against. Even though I know it's unlikely that that defender is actually going to get the job done, it is absolutely going to keep the pressure up, and that's what matters. Denying some stars, keeping Tan feeling like he's stuck on the defensive. The psychological edge there was definitely worth the extra 5 stars or whatever we spent there, getting that defender into Bulin. And of course, again, we see Tan clears it out quite effectively, but it definitely keeps him pressured, it eats up some attention, and it makes his general attack plans a little harder to pull off. He's trying to use sword spam to get in here and make a difference. Unfortunately, he's just not able to get any catapults to survive long enough to, support his giant, and I am using every turn to just shell those giants into dust. And I've got swords of my own now to change the ground war. Meanwhile, I have finally sieged into Bursam, recognizing that that's a much weaker, more vulnerable place. I'm also trying to weaken Tan's giant battleship to make it a little less able to potentially help Bursam not be taken. And I'm healing up my giant, of course, outside Okirk in his little ship there, before I send it across the sea to join the fight in full. I just want to have full health when I do that. Now, Espark doesn't have a way to stop me from getting into Bursam, and Tan recognizes he can't shoot me out either, so he just takes a shot to kill off one of my naval units. Of course, he's sacrificed his giant to do some damage to my sword, recognizing that is largely lost. And it is about this point that I believe Tan resigned as well, seeing that I had swords that I had broken his giant rush for the final time, and that I had naval dominance and was finally taking Bursam, eating up the Espark bot. It's at this point where we largely wrap up the game. Now, there's not a lot, really, that Tan could have done in this position. I just have superior economy at this point. 87 stars per turn is just stomping on anything he can whip up, and I can easily replace any losses I have attrition-wise, which, unfortunately, Tan can't at anywhere near the rate I can, especially when it comes to the sea. I have been building up my Navy network for a while, after all. And the Espark bot is just sort of wandering around, kind of lost here. Making a mind bender, yeah, I'm sure that's going to change my mind about this game. Moving up another giant, but at this point, I'm about to take Bulin, and that's going to be quite a blow. That'll give me a foothold to push swords out from, and I'll be more than capable of bombarding Grugubu into the ground in the meanwhile. Speaking of which, I am pushing my fleet further into Tan's territory, just taking pot shots wherever I can. There we have ourselves a dead giant. And I'm pushing my sword up a little bit now, too. Just taking my time, doing as much damage as possible to Tan's forces. I've got my own catapults now. Going to turn the tables on that original catapult push. Up at 104 stars per turn towards the end of this game. Those customs houses are just very ludicrous at this point. I built up quite a network just to be able to push back against both Espark and Tan here. And the Espark bot is again fighting for Khmer, seeing that it's wide open and undefended. The Tan bot is pushing everything it has at Bulin in an attempt to retake it. And, and for a second there, I thought the Tan bot was going to try and level Khmer out. Meanwhile, I'm not going to let that happen, so I've shot it out, and I'm going to siege Khmer myself. I'm pushing through with my giant, and we're just going to see quite a bit of ranged bombardment, getting things nice and soft for my sword to get in range. Pushing close to Grugubu, because from Grugubu, Orkfla is not a very far fight at all. And of course, getting my sword production up at Bulin. And right now, all I need to do is keep cutting down all of Tan's forces before they can get in range. I'm pushing overland towards Espark's Empire 2, seeing as that's, where I can send about half of my forces, getting a catapult and an archer up, along with a giant in an attempt to close on Uksa. And got a wave of super units here right at the end. Meanwhile, the Espark bot's losing its mind, and who knows what it is thinking, leaving things open so I can come right into the capital. And the Tan bot doesn't really have anything left but a couple of warriors and now some riders, and, that's going to be pretty easy for me to cut through here. Same when it comes to the Espark bot. And here I am pushing towards Kiksam now. Might as well build up those customs houses once you take the land. Not likely that I'm going to lose any of these cities again, and I am in Grugubu now. At this point, Kiksam is not far from the siege, and I'm moving most of my fleet out to support that. All I need to do is take both capitals, and the game is over, after all. And Espark has moved that Mindbender in range. Well, the bot has anyway, so Just got to keep my eyes out for that. Now, the Tan bot's unable to stop me from taking Grugubu, and at this point, it's unable to stop me from approaching on Orkflaw. Just sneaking all my units forward slowly but surely in a little tide here. And there we are, taking Keeksam now. Mind you, I do see that Mind Bender. It's not a lot I can do, and all I've gambled here is an 8 health defender. So, better to take the economy away from that, from the bot. I do have knights up and in range after all, so I'll be able to cut my way through all of the defenses here. And in fact, a knight is all I really plan to use here to cut in and destroy my opponents. Mind you, Ugsa is going to be a nice simple capture for my giant. And my knight, of course, has no problem cutting into Keeksam. I have gotten into Ark-Gu, and last but not least, it's just closing the line around Orkflaw. Unfortunately, I'm not able to reach Orkflaw quite as neatly with my range support, but that knight gets in, and my sword is able to get into the capital. And, well, neither player is going to be able to stop me from these conquests, which locks down the game. Honestly, I have to say, what gave me the edge in this game more than anything else had to be my unique spawn. I had access to that miniature lake here over to the east side of the map, and that allowed me to take over roughly half the map faster than my opponents. Now, at first it seemed like I was unfortunately hemmed in, but I had some rather nice customs house spots that, in conjunction with my faster expansion, allowed me to rapidly out-economy my opponents, which is, I think, the primary reason here I was able to win against both Espark and Tan, even though they allied. Now, at the end of the day, I have to say it was kind of a bad spawn for Espark, definitely compared to my spawn. And Tan had a solid spawn, but unfortunately was hit on both sides. Well, anyways, thanks for tuning in as always, Polytopians.